Good morning, and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11, and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at some pitching for today, the 17th of October. It is Friday. We do have the two-game LCS slate. Times have kind of flip-flopped. Toronto, Seattle playing the earlier game, Milwaukee and the Dodgers playing the late game. I guess it isn't morning. It is afternoon here. Could be morning where you're at, I guess, technically. But yeah, we have two games. Toronto has come back, winning 2 on the road to tie it up at 2-2, guaranteeing a 6th game in the series. Milwaukee, LA. LA has just dominated the Brewers so far. Brewers back against the wall. Win or go home game. Getting swept in the NLCS just does not feel great. Dodgers will get plenty of time off before the World Series if they were to close it out tonight, which I don't know if that's a good thing based on their offense being so solid so far. I realized last night's game was a little closer, but it never felt all that close, I guess. Mizorowski did a good job of keeping Milwaukee in it, but then he hit a wall and allowed a run or two in that inning. I think only one of them was his, but I guess off the top of my head, I don't remember. But starting out with Ashby for what seems like the 700th game in a row, backfired. Dodgers have seen him plenty. He's thrown a lot in the postseason. He's a traditional starting pitcher, so I'm sure he's worn down a little bit, even if he won't tell you that he is. All that usage for a guy that's used to pitching every 5 days, probably wearing down a little bit. Control might be an issue. Feel for an off-speed pitch, probably an issue with that. But I would assume we're not seeing Ashby tonight. If we do, it's probably not going to be as an opener. I won't, keep it out of the realm of possibility, but I touched on it yesterday. I just don't think that they open with Ashby to follow with Quintana, another lefty. That just kind of plays into how the Dodgers would construct their lineup, like I mentioned, again. So I do think we see Quintana as a normal starter. If we get word about an opener, I could see it being McGill, since they used him as an opener in the Cubs series. I guess technically could be somebody like Chad Patrick, but he's somebody that can give them length. Plus, he's shown them, at least in the Chicago series, some solid ability as a bullpen guy. Maybe Tobias Myers, but I just don't think they're going to do that. I think with Quintana pitching, they want him pitching in the first, potentially facing Shohei and Freddie Freeman. But we will see as the afternoon progresses, as we get some more news. With that being the later game, we might not find out about an opener, for another 3 hours or so. But anyways, that's enough of my spiel. I'll be looking at DraftKings, as that is where a majority of my action is. You can basically play everybody on FanDuel. Minus maybe not Quintana, to be honest, because I think there's a sub 1% chance that he gets a quality start. And then if there were to be an opener, I really don't think you can play Quintana then. But I think all are viable on DraftKings. So let's jump into the first one. Toronto, Seattle. Kevin Gausman on normal rest. Started game 1 of this series. Was pretty decent overall. One mistake really. Just 3 hits allowed. Pretty solid. Each of his 2 postseason starts has only thrown 75 and 76 pitches. That's a little annoying, but he's pitched into the 6th in both of those. So he's been pretty strong overall. Seattle can strike out plenty. He did make 2 starts against Seattle during the season. His overall numbers better on the road, minus his strikeout numbers drop, but his home runs allowed plummet. Walk rate goes up a little bit, but overall fantasy numbers are better when pitching on the road, I do believe. At Seattle, he went for 11.8. Struck out 3 early in the season. It seems like a low number. 5 1/3, 3 allowed. Then he would have went 5 2/3 allowing just 2 runs on 3 hits. striking out 5 in the other one. Much stronger performance. Seattle just hasn't looked strong. They've scored some runs late in the last couple games, but I think that Gausman is probably the second best pitcher on the slate for us to use. It's probably not all that close considering Bryce Miller faces a Toronto team that just doesn't strike out all that much. Plus, he's not a big K guy anyways. So I think Gausman just makes a ton of sense. Right now on the DK Sportsbook, Toronto and Gausman are minus 116 favorites in the game. Game total of 7. Juice is on the over, but it's 7.5 with juice on the over in the LA game, where the Dodgers are minus 206 favorites. So massive favorites. So Seattle, second lowest team total, which probably doesn't matter all that much in a postseason environment. They are at home. They do have a ton of power. Gausman can get beat up. It's been a while since he's really gotten beat up by the home run ball. So that's probably a good sign for him. Just an interesting spot. K's kind of have come down, as the season progressed. So that's the annoying part. See if I can bring up the Mariners' postseason numbers and in the series themselves as far as K's go. I know during the season we did like them for strikeouts, but they do offer a lot of power. They're striking out about just over 11 times per game in the postseason. They are in this series so far. If I can find them against Toronto, they are striking out about 11 times per game. So very similar, maybe slightly less in this series, but still, it's a lot of strikeouts in the postseason. Great spot for Kevin Gausman for me, but obviously stacking Seattle makes a ton of sense as well. We've seen teams after 2 games just kind of flip a switch. We saw Seattle go through a rough series with Detroit. I thought they'd come out flat in this series, and they came out hot and took 2 games in Toronto. And all of a sudden, the last 2 games, like the flip switched the other way. Toronto's been hot, and Seattle's kind of been off. The other side, Bryce Miller, his postseason start in Game 1 of this series, really strong. Surprisingly strong. Outpitched Gausman. Again, just not a lot of strikeout upside. He has this random 11 strikeout game against the team that strikes out the most in baseball. But then he only has a few starts where he struck out more than 4 after that. 3 starts to be exact. So 4 starts on his season. So 4 out of his 20 where he struck out more than 4. Not the best of numbers. His first appearance against Toronto was horrendous. So his overall numbers have bounced back thanks to that last start. Against Detroit, he wasn't terrible. But again, just 2 strikeouts. And that was a team that struck out a lot more. Not a huge fan of Bryce Miller in the spot with Toronto getting to see him a second time in this series. But he's certainly viable for what we're trying to do and build. The bottom part of the Toronto lineup is weak. I know Jimenez has struck or homered in back-to-back games, but he's got an OPS on the season in the 500s. Santander was removed, so now you're going to get either Kiner Falefa again, he started last night, or Laperfido, who I like Laperfido quite a bit, but I don't know that he's going to step into a starting role. So maybe it's Miles Straw right away. So it's tough to gauge, but the bottom part of the lineup can be weak. But, the way that Vlad is swinging it, Springer swinging with a lot of confidence, Kirk looks good. It is a tougher spot, and I do believe that Bryce Miller, thought he was a reverse splits guy, off the top of my head. He is, from an average standpoint, more power to lefties, better strikeout numbers to righties, but from just a base hits, allowing harder contact, etc., I do think it's against right-handed bats, but overall, I think everybody's in play against him. 2-game slate, we definitely have to sprinkle in some Bryce Miller, but he's a distant third, and in a tier on his own because Quintana is much lower than him on my rankings at this point. It sucks to just want to be chalky. This game is tight enough. Seattle being just minus 105 on the money line. Team totals are tight enough that I think, stacking both sides make a lot of sense. Milwaukee, LA. Obviously, the big issue I have here is the fact that Ohtani can't be used as a hitter. Makes it tougher to want to stack some of the Dodgers. Just because a lot of their offense then, at any given point, could come from Ohtani. He could hit 2 home runs, drive in 5. And the stack is not valuable to us because we don't get his points. You'd think after a few years the sites would figure out a way to allow you to use both guys, or both, as separate players. But it is what it is. The Brewers overall have looked rough, and just can't hit in the series. We kind of get that a little bit. We kind of knew overall the Brewers lineup can be weak. Postseason-wise, you rely a lot on power, and the Brewers just don't have a ton of it. Ohtani has made one postseason appearance on the mound, which was nearly 2 weeks ago now. Am I missing a start? I feel like he started more than that, but just 3 hits allowed, but allowed 3 runs. Struck out 9 against Philly. Just a ton of upside for him as a pitcher. Every start in August or September, 3 of them he allowed 0 runs across those starts. So just came in great form. Been 2 weeks, but I think that's probably a decent thing for somebody like Ohtani. Having come back from Tommy John, etc., ramped up as the season went on. He did see 89 pitches in that start, finished the season with his highest pitch count start of the year at 91. So, he's probably an 80 to 90 pitch guy in this spot. If the Dodgers come out and just absolutely dominate, I could see him only going 5 innings. But it's tough for them to, rely on their bullpen in a closeout game because the bullpen's been so rough for much of the season. He just makes the most sense for starting pitching. Now, with that said, you shouldn't be fading Milwaukee's offense. Back against the wall, somebody's got to show up for them. I just don't expect them to come out just flat and just get smoked and sent home, 4-0. So, I'm not really sure who the bats are to trust right now. Durbin looks fine, making a ton of contact, etc. Churio, I'm going to guess he's not playing today, even though they swear it was just a cramp. I'm just not sure what to think. I would guess there's a chance he gets removed. Or maybe they just give him a day to figure out on that. But they need Christian Yelich to wake up. There's been some stats circulating. He hasn't driven in a run since his first postseason game 7 years ago. They absolutely need him to wake up at this point. I'm not sure. I have to kind of dig into some history against Ohtani if they faced him. But, it's really tough to get behind the Brewers right now with the way they've looked. As far as Quintana, really tough to trust him. He hasn't been pitching, obviously. 1 postseason appearance 9 days ago. 3 innings out of the bullpen. Last start was over a month ago. But they need him to step up and throw some innings. That bullpen is getting worn down. They need him to be a veteran leader and just get out somehow, some way. Mizorowski showed us that the Dodgers can strike out. The problem is Quintana is basically the complete opposite of a pitcher as Mizorowski. Soft-throwing lefty versus a hard-throwing righty. Very different styles, but maybe that'll come in handy after the Brewers had to see it. The Dodgers had to see it. Now they have to kind of slow down. And kind of stay through to the opposite field, through the middle of the field. So Quintana's intriguing in that regard, but it's super tough to trust him. Dodgers offense just is so potent that it's really tough to get there. There we have it. There's our first look at pitching. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell, and get the alert anytime we drop videos here at TFS Army. If you want to join us and get access to everything, I'll drop a link in the description below. Promo code RAZ gets you 10% off. Best of luck.